When you violate a constitutional right, qualified immunity doesn't apply to you. And that's what I'm talking about. It does not. And Angela, don't do that. It does not.
I thought that was the definition. I thought that was the definition.
No, it does not.
I thought that was the definition.
No, it does not. If you carry yourself outside of the confines of your training and the protocols of that department, qualified immunity doesn't apply to you. It does not.
That's not true.
That is very true. That is very true. That is patently true. And we need to make sure we have that accurate. We cannot make that statement because you have a lot of officers out here who do their job with honor and dignity and respect for the people that they serve.
Listen, qualified immunity is a legal doctrine that protects government officials from civil lawsuits when they perform their jobs unless they clearly violate a constitutional right.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And what is a violation of that right is when
Did her face hit the floor? Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. So today, we have Byron Donalds, Congressman out of Florida, on The Breakfast Club. That's right. And also they have on The Breakfast Club as a guest, Angela Rye. And you know she's a clefty lefty. And then you have Charlamagne, of course, and DJ Envy. But anyway, we're going to look at that video and I'm going to give my commentary throughout. But before we get further into it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Now let's get back into it. And let me just also say that this clip that I'm about to show you is right after DJ Envy brings up Byron Donalds' past, where he got arrested for bank fraud and smoking marijuana. And so DJ Envy brought that up, and here's his question.
You hear Donald Trump talk about some of the other brothers that were arrested and taking out that full ad in the paper, or you hear them talking about Haitian people eating dogs and cats. You still stand by them and what they believe, and if you do, why?
Well, a couple things.
Because you're given a second chance, because like you should have been. But why do you still stand by them if you do?
Well, I think you also got to acknowledge that when he was president, he also did the First Step Act, which undid a lot of the issues with the '94 crime bill that a lot of politicians, including the current president, were for. He undid that when he was president of the United States. I think second chances are important in society. I think everybody's afforded them. You know, what happened with the Central Park Five? I was probably 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade when that was going down in New York.
Yep.
I can't really speak to that. But what I also...
It was all over the paper.
I know. It was everywhere. You couldn't escape it.
We were around the same age, so we seen it everywhere.
You couldn't escape it. Mm-hmm. But what I would also add is that in 2000, Donald Trump was a member of the Reform Party. Most people don't talk about this. He was a member of the Reform Party. When David Duke joined the Reform Party, he left. And he famously said, I can't be associated with that party because they let David Duke come in. That man is a Klansman. When he bought Mar-a-Lago, he desegregated Mar-a-Lago. But at the time when he bought it, only white people were allowed in Mar-a-Lago. He desegregated that, allowed Black people and Jewish people to be a part of Mar-a-Lago. So I think that when you start going down the road of the past, you have to take a man in his totality. I know the man today. And then when you couple that with the economic policies, the energy policies, the foreign policy, we have to acknowledge the reality that in the world today, the United States is in the midst of two conflicts, not directly, but indirectly. We just sent troops over into the Middle East because of the growing conflict with our ally Israel having to essentially secure its sovereignty and its protection from Hezbollah and Hamas. Well, when Donald Trump was president, we didn't have to do any of that. So I acknowledge the stuff that you're talking about that happened in the past, but I think you have to take a man on the full record. And when he was president, he did release a lot of Black people from prison. He did that. He did try to reform some of the criminal justice system. He did that as well. And so that work is just as important as something that he might have said back during the Central Park Five.
I acknowledge the First Step Act, but when you said he undid the '94 crime bill, what do you mean?
What I mean is that the reforms in the First Step Act undid in part some of the issues in the '94 crime bill. Not totally. Mm-hmm. Not totally. It dealt with the sentencing of those people who either had their sentences reduced or were released, and their convictions were in line with the '94 crime bill and the way criminal statutes were written under that piece of legislation.
See, that I love Byron Donalds. Ooh, I love me some Byron Donalds, congressman out of Florida. And you know he was high up on the list for vice president, but I'm fine with J.D. Vance. And he did really good. J.D. Vance did really good in that VP debate last night with Tampon Tim. But anyway, it looks like the clefty lefties always want to bring up stuff that is like really non-consequential because comments made about the Central Park Five by Donald Trump when he sent out that op-ed were his opinion, and he was not president. He was nowhere in politics, and he was basing their guilt off of their admission, because they did admit to their own guilt. And there's video out there. There's a website out there with them, the actual young men at that time, they were teenagers, admitting to doing it. And Donald Trump said, well, if they admitted to doing it, then they're guilty. And that is where, and Donald Trump mentioned this during the debate with Kamala Harris. People keep bringing up the Central Park Five. It is not relevant. He was not a politician. And these young men, I'm not saying they're guilty. I'm not saying they're guilty before Black folk get all up in our feelings. I'm saying at the time, he said, well, if they said they were guilty, then they must be guilty. And Donald Trump just has that feeling towards women being violated. And I know some of y'all gonna say, well, what about what he did to E. Jean Carroll? Now, you know that heifer lying. She trying to sell a book. This whole colluded effort to get Donald Trump to look bad and to label him a felon so that he can't run, all the evil powers that be got to do with this, okay? That is not even accurate. He didn't do anything to that woman. He don't even like women his age, let alone women older than him. I'm just keeping it 100. He's just like that. A lot of billionaires are like that. Don't hold it against him. We voting on policy, not on personal preference when it comes to younger women. And E. Jean Carroll is a little bit older than him. No way he looked at her. No way. Also, the 94 crime bill was not something that Jim Crow Joe Biden just went along with. He wrote it. He authored it. He was the architect of these crime bills from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And he locked up Black people. There's even a clip of Jim Crow Joe during his political career in Congress saying, we hang everybody for everything except jaywalking.
We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill.
He literally used the word hanged. That's Jim Crow Joe. That is him. And not only that, Donald Trump had to go up and clean up the mess. And I didn't even realize that he desegregated Mar-a-Lago. We learn something new every day. And then he was a member of the Reform Party, and David Duke joined. He said, that man's a classman. I can't be any part of this. See, look at the totality of a person's life, not just because they're a Republican. And some of y'all, I'm sorry, but you not being as bright of a bulb as you can be. A light bulb needs to go all the way on. You need to stop believing the lefty media, because all of this is an effort to dictate how we think. And the Democrats control the media. So, of course, they're going to keep pushing. He's a dictator. He's a threat to democracy. He's racist. When the media is talking like that, the mainstream media, they are lying. Satan is the prince of the airwaves. Satan is the father of lies. So if the mainstream media say it, believe the opposite. Believe the opposite. Facts.
Hold on a second, Angela, because you brought in like 4 different topics now. Do you want to talk
No,
about
I
Trump?
didn't. What I brought in was January 6th responsibility, police accountability, and I used examples of why they should be held accountable. But you talked about how fantastic he was with the crime bill, which I object, but I'll let you finish your point.
Fair.
You also have not acknowledged the fact that this man was vehemently opposed to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And you all are supposed to be the party that protects law enforcement, where over 150 police officers were assaulted that day on January 6th. Because of Donald Trump's rhetoric.
So let me respond to a couple things. Number one, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. There were actually 2 bills that were moving through the United States Senate that year. There was the George Floyd Policing Act that you discussed, and there was the bill that was written by Senator Tim Scott. They were both moving, moving through the Senate, right? The Tim Scott bill is the one that could have got signed into law. It was essentially a mirror image of the George Floyd bill, except for qualified immunity. The difference between those 2 bills, and Angela, you just acknowledged it, the only difference between those 2 bills was qualified immunity. The issue with qualified immunity is very simple. If you remove qualified immunity from policing, you're going to have less officers on the street. Police officers make what? $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. They have, most law enforcement has about 40 million or more encounters every single year with citizens. If you remove qualified immunity, I'm telling you this right now, because I've talked with law enforcement officers all across the country, not the chiefs, the officers. They will not be working these communities. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm from Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I may not have always loved having the police in my neighborhood, and that's just a thing from a kid. I may not have always loved it, but when I needed them, they were there. And a lot of our officers today, they're Black, they're Hispanic, they're white. So removing qualified immunity only lowers the number of officers in communities. What we're seeing right now is a movement of policing from states where they're not really respecting law enforcement to states where they do, or there's not that moral support for law enforcement. I was in my district yesterday. I was talking with an officer who's from Philadelphia. He was a Philadelphia officer. He now is a Fort Myers officer. I asked him, I was like, well, why'd you make the move? He goes, because up there was no support for me as an officer for what I love to do, which is serve my community. So I said, enough is enough. I'm going to move. He went to Florida. My sheriff in Florida, he's like, I have more applications coming from officers who are in states or in localities where they're not getting the moral support or whatever they need to continue to do their job day in, day out. And so they're leaving. Well, who does that hurt? That hurts. Who does that really hurt, though, Charlamagne?
Yeah,
because if you don't have officers if you don't have officers on the streets or officers, in urban areas, who's really left in that lurch?
And just for a moment, I want to pause for a word about our sponsor, C60 Evo, which is a great product. They offer healthcare products, internal products for your body with the olive oil and facial and skincare products that work beautifully on your skin. You can input the discount code ChatWithLinda or Linda B to get your discount. The link and all the information is in the description.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
tell you who's left in the lurch. It's Black and brown folks, because there's a lot of crime in our communities. Now, Angela Rye, she's going to sit up there and try to find a way not to. First of all, Byron Donalds is cooking her. He cooked her. He roasted her completely, because one of the things that the Democrats are really good at, unfortunately, is having a law or a bill with a great sounding title, but in the intricacies of that bill, when you read the bill in its entirety, there's something in it that the public is not aware of, but the Republican politicians, the true Republicans, are aware of, and that is why they vote against it. That is why they vote against it. It reminds me of what happened in Florida with Governor Ron DeSantis and that advanced African American history course. And the media, the mainstream propaganda media, made it sound like, oh, well, he's being racist. He doesn't want Black people to have an advanced history course. But within that history course was queer theory and encouraging children to identify opposite of what they were born as. That was what is in there. But the media didn't put that out there. But Ron DeSantis said it, but somehow it got overlooked because the media is for the Democrats. They work for them. They're all in collusion together. Hollywood, the music industry, the news media, big tech pharma, all of that. Okay, that's why RFK had to leave the party, because they're the party of warmongers and other stuff, and he's for making America healthy again. So I need Black folks, listen to me. I wish I had a bigger platform. You guys help me get to 100,000 subscribers, okay? Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because we have got to get educated on the intricacies of these laws. They have a nice sounding title, but it's not all what it is propped up to be. When these Democrats get their hands on something, they're going after Americans. They used to just go after Black and brown people. Now it's all of us, okay? All of us. And all of us need to be united against evil. That's what we need to do. And she can spout all this mess, thinking she know more than him, who was actually there voting and on the bills and things like that. Girl, how you think you're going to know more than him?
Figure out what does qualified immunity have to do with having less police officers?
Because the economic incentive of qualified immunity means that your personal assets aren't gone after if something goes wrong. So, you're in business. Do you get involved in a project or a deal that leaves you massively exposed financially? You may, depending on your passion for that project, but then you also sit back and think, now, wait a minute, if something goes wrong, I'm going to be held massively liable. Maybe I need to do something else with my life.
Something goes wrong. We're talking about people getting violently hurt or killed.
Yeah, clearly.
When it's clear that you brushed over.
But it's clear when somebody clearly violates a constitutional right.
And when you violate a constitutional right, qualified immunity doesn't apply to you. And that's what I'm talking about. It does not. And Angela, don't do that. It does not. I thought that was the definition. No, it does not.
I thought that was the definition.
No, it does not. If you carry yourself outside of the confines of your training and the protocols of that department, qualified immunity doesn't apply to you. It does not.
That's not true.
That is very true. That is very true.
Patently
that false. It's patently true. And we need to make sure we have that accurate. We cannot make that statement. because you have a lot of officers out here who do their job with honor and dignity and respect for the people that they serve.
Well, listen, qualified immunity is a legal doctrine that protects government officials from civil lawsuits when they perform their jobs unless they clearly violate a constitutional right.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And what is a violation of that right is when
did her face hit the floor? Did her face hit the floor? I'm so tired. Okay. I want us not to be emotional when someone is trying to give you facts. She's determined to make him out to be a villain because he is a Republican. And I'm just going to keep it 100 on this channel. Black Republicans, all Republicans are, when they're true MAGA Republicans, are demonized, but he's a black MAGA Republican. So it is offensive to a lot of black people. Like, how dare you be a conservative? How dare you? I remember a real life incident in my life some years back, and I registered as a Republican, and the black man sitting behind on the other side of the table, he gave me this ugly look. He was an older gentleman. It is what it is. When people get knowledge and they know the real reasoning behind things and how the Democrats have worked to destroy the black community with father absence and poor performing public schools, and they run all sorts of things in these large urban areas, which are primarily black, which are ran by black Democrats. I just got to tell you, Democrats use black people to do the dirty work. Black people are just like other people. We're no better. We're no worse. We're just people. But the Democrats, that's just their MO, their modus operandi. That's just how they roll. They use black folks to do their dirty work. I mean, look at Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and Fonnie Willis. Although 3 out of the 4 prosecutors or people or the attorney general going after Donald Trump are black. That is by design. These people, I'm telling you, and if something goes left, who gets hurt? The black people who they use. Now, a lot of y'all believe that since they've the leftists, nothing's going to happen to them. We'll see. We shall see.
Black people are about 7.5 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder in the United States than are white folks, and about 80% more likely to be innocent than others convicted of murder, according to a 2022 report by the National Registry of Exonerations.
Before Byron Donalds, Congressman Donalds answers that, I want to just say, I'm a little different than most conservatives, because most conservatives will say that America is not a racist country. I say, I agree, yes and no. We are, okay, let me just start off by saying we are not a racist country, in part because most people just want to live their lives. Most people aren't thinking about that. We all want the same thing. We should be the United States of America. Most people aren't even racist like that. What I will say is we are racist partly because of the Democratic Party, who has racist laws. You know Joe Biden's history with the crime bills. You know he literally said we did everything but hang people for everything except jaywalking. You know Kamala Harris's history in California as a DA and attorney general, where she locked up black men. Some of them were innocent, and she hid the evidence or also framed some and used them for slave labor. So no, America is not racist, but the Democrat politicians are, and the Democrat policies are. Because when you look at the crime bills and you look at the Democratic Party, it was founded on racism, is the KKK and Jim Crow and all of that, and they took the fathers out of the homes. I gotta say, no, America is not racist, but when it comes to Democrat politician policies, yes, America is in that way. And I hope that makes sense. And let's get back to it.
What are the national security policies? What are the border security policies that are gonna make our country thrive? So whether you black, Hispanic, or white, you could thrive.
Right.
And so I think it's
so
important.
Then would you have to say that if it wasn't a racist country, whether you're black, white, or Hispanic, you could thrive?
No.
Are we thriving? Are members in your state?
I would argue we're not really thriving right now. This inflation, which, by the way, was brought to us by Kamala Harris, has really slowed down people from being able to excel.
By Kamala?
Yes.
Vice president.
Oh, Charlamagne.
Still the president.
Charlamagne, listen, man. When Joe Biden wanted to do his American Rescue Plan, Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate. She broke the tie that started this inflation that has hurt so many people in our country. Everybody listening to your show, It's not true?
First
Sure?
of all, it's
You sure you want to go there?
tie-breaking vote.
You sure you want to go there?
Go outside,
What you pulling out?
you go outside.
You sure you want to go there? Okay, let's go there.
You had it
You got
printed out.
notes. You got notes, Angela Rye.
That's fine. I have notes.
I'm gonna give it to
biggest note I
Charlamagne.
have today
I'm gonna give it to
is
Charlamagne.
that on
I don't
every
even want to hold
question
it.
I've asked,
Because Angela, hold on now. Go ahead.
for every infrastructure project in your community,
You can go to
should
third
go
page.
out
That's the
and
highlighted
thank
portion.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Congress that voted for the American Rescue Plan.
Angela,
That's what should be happening.
Larry Summers wrote an op-ed back in 2021. Larry Summers was the Treasury Secretary for Bill Clinton. He was an economic advisor to Barack Obama. He said that the American Rescue Plan that Joe Biden wanted, that Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate, would create a massive inflation that we have not seen in a generation. Well, guess what? Larry Summers was correct. You know who also was correct, Angela? I was, because I was in the budget committee when they brought the bill. And I said in that committee, it's going to cause massive inflation. That's what happened.
Woo! Yes, Angela girl. You all right? You need a pill? These clefty lefties swear they know more than the actual politicians themselves, the good politicians. You know, you got some evil ones out there, those clefty lefty demon craps. But Byron Donalds is the good one. And she thinks she knows more than him. Girl, your notes don't compare. Just burn them, shred them. But this was great. This was a great segment. Now, I don't know what Breakfast Club is really trying to do, if they're really trying to get more conservatives on the sly, on the sneaky sneak, because Byron Donalds just cooked her. He cooked her, honey. He had her for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She had no response. I could just feel her face cracking and hitting the floor. Get it together, get your facts straight, because he is in Congress. He is part of the House Oversight Committee. It's his job full time to look at every single line, every single piece, every paragraph of a law or a bill that is put forth to become law. And she thinks that she knows more than him. She's saying that is false. He said, no, that is true. He knows more. And then Charlamagne read the definition right there. Boom. Girl, get it together. Get your facts straight, because you clearly don't have them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Now, remember, I am on Instagram, TikTok, and X as ChatWithMeLindaB. And you can email me, chatwithmelindaB@gmail.com. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, these United States of America. And as they always say, march on, warriors.